We're live. Hey, everybody. So glad you're here. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite cocktail or gazpacho, and we'll be right back with you.
Thought you really loved me. Guess I was wrong. Thought you'd never leave me. Guess I was dumb. Waited like forever to be your plus one, but I guess you were done. Left me at the... Thought you really loved.
That's what I meant. There's always a flub. We've had it. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, now we've got that over with. The rest of the episode is going to be seamless. Seamless. Hi, everybody. I'm Killer Kara Ruda, and I'm here with my other co-host, Killer Kimberly Bell. Killer Heather should be tuning in. She's at a live book event right now, but she's going to try to scoot in right at the end. We'll be happy to welcome her whenever she makes her appearance. And tonight, you guys, our special guest is Kate White. The famous Kate White. So she first appeared in my life when I was at Thriller Fest, and she was the panel moderator, and I could barely speak. I was like so fangirling. Anyway, Kate, we're so glad you're here. Welcome to Killer Author Club.
Thank you, Killer Kara and Killer Kimberly. I'm so happy to be with you tonight.
We are excited you're here.
Just so if anybody's joining for the first time, I wanted to give a little background. We just figured out that we've been doing this almost a year. We started right in the heart of the pandemic, and the Killers all had books coming out around the same time. And we were trying to think of a fun way to connect and kind of build a community when we were all all by ourselves in our offices writing. And we thought it'd be fun to build a community around people who like killers, fun fictional sense. So that's kind of how we started. And we are so happy you guys are here. It's been growing every episode. And here's some housekeeping things. Okay, you can come join the club. If you're watching this on Facebook or have a Facebook account, check out our public group, Killer Author Club, where we talk books, killing, all that kind of stuff. For the really hardcore killers, we also have a private members-only group called the Killer Author Clubhouse. And that's where you have very many member privileges, so you guys should join, including our new book club feature. October 18th, we're going to have Geneva Rose of One of Us is Dead. That's going to be a fun book club. That'll be our first book club. And you can only join that if you're in the Killer Author Clubhouse on Facebook. Okay, also, our November book club is going to be with Samantha Downing. You guys asked, we asked her, and she's coming. So that's going to be so fun too. And we'll tell you more about that later. Okay, you'll also want to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're up to 175 subscribers.
We are killing it.
I know we're killing it. I mean, thousands of you just do it. Also, follow all three of our Instagram accounts and social media. Us authors love to interact with you guys there. And I think, you can find everything you need to know at our website, killerauthorclub.com. All right, so without further ado, Kimberly, will you please introduce our guest?
Absolutely. So Killer Kate White is the New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling author of 8 standalone psychological thrillers, including The Second Husband, which we're going to be talking a lot about tonight, as well as 8 Bailey Wiggins mysteries, including Such a Perfect Wife, which was nominated for an International Thriller Writers Award. The former editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan magazine, so we bow down. Kate is also editor of the Mystery Writers of America cookbook. So, Killer Kate, give us your elevator speech for The Second Husband, which we both read and loved.
Oh God! Well, it's a thriller, but it's also a whodunit, a psychological suspense about a young woman who's on her second marriage, and they've been married a short time when the police arrive from New York City to Westport and basically tell her they're reopening the investigation into the murder of her first husband that was never solved. And so not only is this harrowing for her because she married a very short time after the death of her first husband, and so she's a suspect, but things begin to happen. Information unfolds for her that make her realize that it's possible that her old life and her new life intersected somehow in a very scary way. So that's what she has to face, and she has to do her best to kind of unravel what the situation is.
And it was fabulous. I loved it. And we're going to talk a lot more about the book in a minute because I have all sorts of questions. But first, I wanted to get everybody to settle in for the killer cocktail of this episode, which isn't actually officially a cocktail. So, Kara, you want to tell us about that? I'm going to find the graph.
It's our first killer cold soup. I love it. So, Kate, tell us why you picked killer gazpacho.
I don't know if you guys can read it. It's really small up there, but
yeah,
we'll post it on the killers pages.
Just have one right here. I am not a big mocktail person or even cocktail. I drink wine with dinner every night, whether I have to or not. And
me too.
So you had said, hey, what's your mocktail? What's your cocktail? And I happen to absolutely love this gazpacho. And it's in the New York Times food section, and they call it the best gazpacho. And they say in it that if you're in southern Spain where it's popular, it's often drunk as a drink early in the evening. So
that's fun. That's a great.
But wait, does it have booze in it? Is there anything in it?
No, it's a mocktail.
Vegetables. Yeah. Okay.
Just,
clearly, I've not looked at the. I'm like, wait, I need to know about
It's
gazpacho.
But I love the idea of drinking it. I love gazpacho.
Maybe
and I love
put some vodka in it because it's got tomato.
A Bloody Mary gazpacho.
Some of the Bloody Mary ingredients in it. It's got a lot of olive oil. That's one of the secret ingredients from that part of Spain. And I had it in that part of Spain, and I really loved it. And until I had it, I used to make a very chunky gazpacho, but this is very smooth, and they recommend you sometimes serve it if you want in glasses. So
yeah. I actually have a friend who served it to me once in like a little shot glass thing, and it was so good. It was really cute. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That would work too.
One of the first times my husband and I cooked together when we first got married, we were making gazpacho. My mom was coming over, and I confused a bulb and a clove of garlic.
Oh,
8 cloves of garlic. And my mom walks in, she goes, "Oh no, what have you done?" I'm not doing this stuff. It was so strong. Oh my gosh, it's one of my funniest memories. Like newlywed cooking.
Like it burns your tongue off.
Oh yeah, you couldn't drink this stuff, you guys.
My toes are curling just thinking of that.
Yeah, it was kind of a big mistake, but we learned now. We've learned,
Yeah, you'll never do it again.
Process,
right? That reminds me of in the magazine business, a reader once wrote in, we were asking for kind of sticky situations, and she wanted to serve her in-laws, her brother-in-law and her sister-in-law, who she had never entertained, something special. So she took out a meatloaf frozen from the freezer, and she said she also had frozen gravy. And her brother-in-law takes the very first bite, and he goes, "God, this is great, sweet but great." And she had actually cooked a carrot cake and reheated a carrot cake. I don't know why, I just always love that story.
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
Such disasters.
Yeah, a big disaster. Oh, and you know what, you guys, I forgot to say earlier on, be sure to drop your questions for Kate in the comments.
Yeah.
We will try to get to as many as we can for her. I mean, mostly about the book, but if you have Cosmo questions, I totally get it. But we're talking about
Yeah. And there's also an Ask Me Anything segment coming up later in this episode, if you guys have seen that on our pages. So save your random, non-bookish, crazy, they could be bookish too, but ask me anything. So start thinking about what that question's going to be.
Only Kimberly, though.
Well, I have one for both of you. So
great.
Okay, so let's talk about the second husband, because this book starts with a bang. We have this woman who is seemingly living this perfect life with this second husband, and then she gets this dreaded call. Her husband has been murdered, which leads us to the burning question. Who do you kill?
I have to say, having written now, I just handed in 18th or 19th book.
Wow.
I killed the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly.
You're equal opportunity killer.
Yeah, and certainly I've killed off some bad people. And the second husband, in the very first chapter, the first husband dies, and you realize, as Emma is lying in bed after the police leave, and she's thinking, what will be like to never have him come home? What will be like for me to come home to an empty house? What will it be like for me to never see his face or hear his voice again? And then the last line of the first chapter is her going, what will it be like to finally be happy again? And so you realize she wasn't happy. She may be shaken by what's happened, but she wasn't happy in the marriage, and he wasn't such a great guy. Mm-hmm. So he's the kind of guy I like to kill off. But sometimes I'll find myself in the middle of the book, even though I'm a plotter, not a pantser.
Me too.
Unfold as I'm doing it. And sometimes I've had somebody I like realize, oh, they're going to die.
Yeah.
I didn't know that going into the book.
Yeah.
And have you saved anybody from a murder? Like, have you decided not to kill somebody ever?
I don't think that's happened. I think pretty much once I have that instinct, they're going to die. It's almost like I would be tempting fate if I saved their life.
Right. So you got to kill them. You just got to do it. Yep.
I love it. And I love how we all three of us, and Heather too, actually, write about like this husband-wife dynamic. Like, what is it about that draws you to your stories, or your stories to you?
Well, I'll answer that if both you do too, because I guess for me, though I've written some books that aren't about a marriage, I keep coming back to the marriage. And I think it's because, having been married to my husband now for 36 years, I am interested in the dynamics. Certainly at Cosmo, we explored that all the time, where we were called as Reese Witherspoon called us in Legally Blonde. Yeah. It's the Bible. Our readers call it the relationship Bible. So I've always been fascinated by the dynamics of marriage, and that's fertile ground when you say Killer Kimberly, Killer Kara for mysteries, because there's often things about a marriage that you don't know, that there could be secrets, infidelity. And I mean, why do you both explore that?
Yeah, I think for all those reasons that you say, and for me, it's also, it's very, I think even if you're not married, even if you've never been married, you can put yourself in that position, so you can understand what it would be like to be in a position like that, in a relationship like that, where you share a home and a bed with this person, and like, who do you trust more than that, right? So when there's some sort of betrayal or crime, even, that it hits in the gut, even if you don't really, if you don't know this couple in real life, you can imagine yourself in that circumstance.
Right.
And I think too, like the whole notion that I've always been fascinated with the Keeping Up with the Joneses thing, so that everyone pretends.
Yeah, your books are very much that.
Yeah. And because everybody, I mean, it's just human nature, I think, to pretend that everything's okay, or, the surface, everything looks great. But we all know that, I mean, especially in long-term marriages, things aren't always perfect. I mean, not always, but I mean, I think that's the thing too, like to kind of dig beneath the surface and find out like what could actually be going on in the house next door. Really.
Or even your own. There's a friend who she and her husband have a couple friend that we really liked, but and we did try to socialize with them a bit, but we obviously weren't as cool as our friends, because we didn't really go anywhere. But lately she found out, not my friend, but her friend, that her husband had been having this long-term affair with someone who was now blackmailing him, and he'd given her all this money. And it's just, the marriage it was such a betrayal. It wasn't like, God, honey, I had a one night stand on a business trip. Can you ever forgive me? It was just so big. It
Yeah.
involved draining the finances, and you would never have guessed this from seeing them. And so I think that's with marriage, you can feel someone incredibly well, but there could be these secrets. And so I think that's what makes it so ripe to explore as a possible thriller.
I agree.
Because you're really not making stuff up so much.
Right. And everybody can put themselves in that position. And I think that's the power of these kind of stories, right? That when you read one and you think, oh gosh, that could happen to me. Like, what would I do if that happened to me?
Right.
Yeah. So how did this story come to you? Like, where did it start in your head?
Well, not so much the way some start, where they actually might start with a rip from the headlines. Like I started a book once based on that woman in California who is now going to prison for having faked her kidnapping.
It's scary.
Yeah, I was intrigued with the idea. Did the husband do it or not? And because so often when the wife disappears jogging, the husband did do it. But in
Always the husband.
In this, it was just kind of one day an idea of, I want to write about a marriage again. What if it wasn't the first marriage? What if it was the second? And I was reminded of this thing that happened with my husband and I a number of years ago. We were walking someplace and we'd brought umbrellas with us, but it wasn't raining. And I started twirling my umbrella like a baton. And something I learned to do when I was a young girl. And he said to me, wait, you twirled the baton? And then I did a thing, one up in the air. And he was like, I cannot believe I did not know that about you. And he said it really bugged him. And then, of course, I really tried to show off. I think I might have
spinning it.
Yeah, around the world, all that. And it got me thinking about, we had been married at least 20 years by this point. Yeah. And he did not know that. So that led to kind of going back to what we were just talking about. There may be things you don't know about somebody you think you know really well.
Yeah. And I think the charm too with something like a second or a third or whatever marriage is that you never come there with, empty hands. You always come with baggage. So you have, family, you have children who, are maybe not quite as trusting as you are for this new person that you've fallen in love with. And there's maybe some money issues, some, property issues. There are all sorts of things that you can throw into the mix to make it even more unclear who's the good guy and who's the bad.
And
that's why,
that's
over 60% of second marriages fail. And partly that's because one stat is that we marry the same person all over again. Yeah. We have to step back and learn from our mistakes. But the other thing is there's all this extra baggage. Yeah. This said, Kimberly, it's, they have a 14-year-old obnoxious teenager in the mix. Mm-hmm. Let's say.
Which you had in this book, right? She wasn't 14, I don't think. She was older, but.
Right. And I was kind of intrigued about the idea of having something like that, because so often that is the case with a second marriage. There is baggage for sure.
Yeah. And maybe a little competition between the daughter and the new wife, right?
Yeah.
Oh, here, let's get a question in from, let's see. Okay. Kate, do your book characters talk to you? And if they do, have you had to change something in the story because of it?
I have to say, the more I've written, the more I realize that you have to let your characters talk to you. And so they do talk to me. And it may not be them specifically saying, Kate, I would never do that. But because I've tried to get better with each book at character development, I will try to think, okay, is that true to her? Is that true to him? Mm-hmm. And so I do let the characters lead me a bit if I'm feeling a little bit stuck.
Yeah. So you said earlier that you were a plotter. So you would like change things in your plot if you realize.
Never the ending. Like I always know the ending. I know who the killer is and why. And I also try to determine before I start how I might hide the killer. So I'm thinking of clues and red herrings. But then as I'm going through, I tend to plot about 4 chapters at a time, always sort of knowing the broad outline, but
Yeah.
and it's in those 4 chapters at a time that things emerge that might be somebody else is going to die or something's going to happen. There's going to be a reversal or reveal of some kind that I didn't know when I was starting out, but not maybe the big reveal, but smaller reveals.
Sounds like our process is very similar. Have you ever had, because I just did this today, a dude walks in, and this is the second time it's happened to me, like into my scene. I was like, who are you? And now I'm like, oh, he's going to be kind of important for the story. So that's the second time it's happened to me. And I don't know where that comes from. I think, when you make a plot and you have kind of like this broad idea of, okay, this is what's going to happen in this order in my story, then your subconscious is always like chugging along and thinking about ways to either improve it or tweak it
and he just sort of came into your head out of nowhere.
Well, he came into the scene and I was like, wait, what? This guy
happens to me all the time.
He's just gonna be a filler, but then he kind of turned out to be this really interesting character, and I was like, oh, well, maybe he has more to say.
That's interesting. Something kind of related that happened to me that was funny is when I was writing the book, The Secrets You Keep, I wanted to have this character who became a friend to the main character in the town that she went to live in, Saratoga. Could not get a handle on her. I just couldn't. And I happened to be up in Saratoga doing some research for the book. And I went into the bookstore up there. That's a wonderful bookstore. And I've done some signings there. And I see this woman standing there and I realize that's Sandra. Oh my God, there she is. So I start trying to follow her a little bit. And she looked over at me. Step back. And I was like, wow. So I leave. And then I go to this restaurant there where I like to sit at the bar and have some bistro food. She comes in and sits at the bar, not because of me, or though maybe now that I'm thinking of, maybe she thought I was trying to pick her up or something, but I got some photos of her on my cell phone and it was
Did you sneak them?
Yeah. And so it was like the character emerged for me in real life, not just in my head, like with you, Kimberly. This was in real life. Now, you're both plotters?
No, I'm a pantser. I mean, I have people pop in all the time and just start being in the story. So yeah, I have no idea, which is really fun for me. But yeah, I'm not a plotter at all. But yeah.
Do you ever get boxed in a corner though?
That would be my problem. That scares me. I wouldn't do it for that reason.
I mean, knock wood, so far, no, somebody will pop in and change the story around. So yeah, it's not a smart thing to be because your agents don't like it and your editors don't like it. I'll just appear with the story. They're like, you didn't even tell us you were writing a story. But anyway, I'm getting, they don't like it, but I love it. So that's and then I write a synopsis after I write it and then tell them, how would you like a story like this?
But what if they say, no, you've written the whole story?
I know. Well, then you have to be really convincing. Then you put on your marketing hat, like you need this story, or you could put on your killer author hat.
There you go.
God.
I know. So I think, all right, is it time for our next segment?
I think so.
Okay. It's our killer giveaway, you guys. Kate is generously giving away 1 copy of The Second Husband. And all you have to do is answer this question about our killer guest. This is a pretty easy one. Oh, and bonus points if you join the club and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our ever-growing YouTube channel. Okay, question. What industry giant magazine was Kate the editor-in-chief for? That's a tough one. I don't know. Like,
We've only mentioned it a few times.
yeah, how will you guys figure this out?
That's the hint. It was not Better Homes and Gardens.
Yeah. Don't say that. That is not the answer. Midwest Living is also not the right answer. Okay.
All right. And so the killer authors also love our indie booksellers. And we always ask our killer guests to tell us their favorite. And Kate has chosen the Corner Bookstore in New York City. Do you want to tell us, here it is, how cute is that? Wow. So do you want to tell us why you chose them?
Well, they, up for many, many years, I lived very close. We moved a couple years ago, but we lived with our kids when they were younger in that neighborhood, Carnegie Hill. And it's the most wonderful bookstore. And when you do a signing there, they provide wine and cheese, not just wine and cheese.
That's
and I've loved doing some signings there and also going to some signings there. It's a wonderful place, kind of what you would almost think New York would have been like in another decade.
Which neighborhood is it in New York?
It's a neighborhood called Carnegie Hill.
Okay.
It's in the 90s on Madison, and it's a very enchanting area, named because Andrew Carnegie had one of his big mansion there in the old. Yeah.
Love it.
Can I just say, I did not know Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie was not a friend of mine. Can I just go on the record and say that?
I just dropped it in the comments. So you guys look for that there. There's a link that will take you straight to the store, and you can order Kate's book from there if you don't win it tonight.
Yeah. They will be so appreciative.
All right. Our next segment, these go fast, Kate, so, here we go. Okay, so we also are rewarding our people who are joining our clubhouse on Facebook with swag giveaways. And we are going to, because membership has its privileges, every episode we'll choose a name from the clubhouse to win a piece of CAC swag. That would be our Author Club swag. T-shirts, mugs, phone cases, hats, all of which can be found at killerauthorclub.com. I know, this is really nice. Okay, tonight we have not one, but two winners, two lucky clubhouse members, and they're going home with the Killer Author Club mug. The winners are Abby Shaw Thurn and Jane Pettit or Petite. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Congratulations, ladies. Please send one of the killers your address, and we'll send the mugs out to you. Yay.
Yeah. I love this swag.
Oh, it's so cute. You should go on Killer Author Club, Kate. You'll like it.
It is fun.
We've got water bottles. Oops, there it is. There's
that hemlock? Okay. Is that hemlock?
You are the first person who guessed it. Oh my gosh, I wish I had like sparkles and fireworks. Yes.
I'd be a terrible thriller writer if I didn't know.
Nobody said that before.
And I've been waiting almost a year because when I was figuring out the logo, I'm like, I don't want it to be like a knife. I want it to be something subtle. Yeah. You got it. Hemlock. Oh, I'm so excited. That's awesome. Okay. I mean, seriously, just made my day. So yes, it is hemlock and it's been there. And so if you guys have been a part of the club and didn't know what that was, that's like the most deadly flavor.
Don't eat it.
70% of your viewers might think it's weed, but I did know.
No, it's just hemlock and you got it right. I'm so proud of it. That's just seriously nightmare. Okay. All right, so we also want to do a shout out to Valerie Brooks and the release of her noir novel, One Last Betrayal. And Heather, our own Heather, says, One Last Betrayal, the explosive third installment in the Angeline Porter series, brings the heat, intrigue, and grit that we've come to love from Valerie J. Brooks, the queen of femme noir thrillers. So congratulations, Valerie. We can't have everybody on the show, so we wanted to do some shout outs along the way. So congratulations, and everybody check out her book too.
Yeah, and I'll drop that link in the comments too.
Yes, you can find Valerie in her books.
Okay, so We talked about it before. Ask a killer anything. So put them in the comments. Ask us anything if you dare. It can be book related. It can be non-book related. You can ask about who we would, I don't know, whatever you want to ask us. So check out the comments. Do we see anything? Because if not, I have some questions.
I see some of you going to order a mug. They are really cute, and that's on killerauthorclub.com. I'm trying to not have Kimberly ask me a question. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay, well, I'll start with Kate then, because I have a question. So, Kate, I want to know the biggest, best, favorite perk that you had when you were editor-in-chief. Like, I read somewhere, you were in like the heyday of, magazine editors. Yeah. I read somewhere that there were like wardrobe budgets, and of course you had cars and all that stuff. But like, what was your favorite perk?
Well, I had a huge clothing allowance, total access to the Cosmo beauty closet, two personal cars, and 24-hour car service. And that was just, but I think one of the things I love the most is being a regular at this restaurant Michael's in New York that's so famous, and everybody went there, and going in and not being put in Siberia, but getting a table up front and being treated like a princess. That was fun. I love that.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds so fun. I love it. All right.
I see a bunch of others in here.
Yeah, I think there was a question for you, Kimberly, but now I can't find it. Okay.
When I see one for you, Kara.
Uh-oh.
Here it comes. Do you have any other sentence secrets like spouse pins to share?
Oh gosh, there's so many secrets. Well, you know what? Actually, a lot of my secrets are shared in The Widow coming out in December.
Yeah.
And I mean, being in DC was amazing, and there are so many secrets, and I hope to kind of do more of that as we get closer to the release. I do have, this is a fun thing. This is an invitation to the First Ladies Luncheon that just took place on Friday. I didn't get to go this year, but I don't know, there's so much depth and history and everything that goes on there that I have so many stories. So yeah, I will try to start sharing more of those as the build up to The Widow. But yeah, thanks for asking.
That's actually a good marketing one, like a marketing thing, like sharing inside information in the build up to The Widow. I say do it.
As long as I don't
know. Talk about intersections. I think that should be milked as best as possible.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think I'll try. I will. Okay. Kimberly, I got to find something. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. How about this one? Do you find characters in your books from any location in particular? You, Kimberly, you answer that.
I find bits and pieces. I don't think I've ever, with the exception of one character, and he was a villain, have ever taken somebody straight out of real life and put them in a book. I kind of take bits and pieces from different people and combine them together because I don't want to get sued.
Always good idea.
But, I'm definitely always on the lookout for, especially characteristics, interesting ways people talk, how they look or dress or move or, things like that. And then I'll kind of mishmash them together and put them in a book for sure. So don't make me mad.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness.
I love it. Anything else in there?
Let's see. Oh yeah, and Valerie, yes, there is a real tip book for spouses. Anyway, do any of you read really smutty romance books just for something different?
Okay, so I haven't done it for a minute, but I got really into the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, which is super smutty, and it's also like vampire romance stuff. But those books are so good, and I just would like whip through them. And it's when you're writing something that's so heavy, like the kind of stuff that we write, and for me it was just kind of a brain cleanse, and I didn't have to think, and it just kind of, and they were super interesting and fun. So yes, the answer is yes. What about you guys?
Good. I'm glad you answered that.
Kara's blushing already, so I know her answer is no. What about you, Kate?
No, but I do need other kinds of writing. Like I love crime books like Bad Blood, or right now I'm reading The History of Watergate, a new book that really looks at it from a distance. It's fabulous. I read the, I guess you could call this a crime book, the Tina Brown book on the Palace Papers, 700 pages about the royal family. So, and then I just read a fabulous book called, it's old, but I wanted to read about fraud for the next book I'm working on. Mrs. Astor Regrets, about how her son bilked her for millions of dollars. So for me, that's kind of smutty stuff in a way, but it's real crime.
Real crime, yeah. That's great.
Real crime.
I love it. All right, Kimberly, I think we have a gift for our guest.
Yes, but
Is it a hat?
No, it's something. It's much more versatile than that.
It is. Here we go. Boom. You survived the Killer Author Club.
Oh, I love it.
We will send you this. You can print it out, wear it on your chest, put it on a t-shirt, hang it on your wall, look at it every morning, make a shrine to it.
And it's got the hemlock on it, which
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just so thrilled that you figured that out. This is just, it really did make my night. It really did.
love it.
And if you'd like a hat, you can go on killerauthorclub.com and get one. Or we could
get the freaking hat for sure.
We might, yes. I think you need one for sure. Yeah. Okay, and then we also wanted to remind you that we have the book club coming up.
Yeah.
We're going a little bit over. So there we go. Yes. So you guys read the book ahead of time, because it's going to be filled with spoilers during the book club, and it's going to be Tuesday, October 18th.
Yeah. Yes. So that is that. All right.
Guys, I can't thank you enough for having me on with you.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you for being here. We've loved it. And you guys, our next one is on Tuesday, October 11th at same time, same place, wherever it is that you're watching. Our next guest is the New York Times best-selling author of 6 adult novels and 7 young adult novels. Her latest was an instant New York Times bestseller and got starred reviews from Booklist, saying this eerie thriller can stand next to Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House and Stephen King's The Shining. So you definitely do not want to miss that. Go shopping at killerauthorclub.com. Thank you to Kate for being here. We will leave the giveaway up for about 24 hours. We'll be choosing tomorrow around this time. So if you're watching after the show, make sure to comment wherever it is that you are watching, and we will pull a random winner from the comments. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. See you in 2 weeks.
I guess I'm a killer through our love into